Hi everyone, just wanted to do a little bit of an experimental demo with our practice portraiture using Nintendo characters. So my plan is to really just work through a little bit of Toad here and see if I can pass on some of my favorite tips and tricks for effectively and relatively quickly tracing out the character using the kind of color blocking method that we were introduced to earlier this week. So I think I'm actually going to start with, let's say, this bottom foot, because there's a lot of really clear light and dark areas. So I'm going to go to my layers panel, make a new layer, and I'll call it foot 1. I'm going to grab my pen tool, I'm going to set my fill to none. Remember that if you're changing the fill or the stroke, whichever one you want to affect needs to be the one that's on top. So right now stroke is on top, but I want fill to be on top. And then I hit none. So there's this light spot here, and actually I'm just going to use the ellipse tool to do that. It's a nice light spot right about there. Remember, none of this is precise, it's all just your best kind of visual guess. Use the eyedropper tool, shortcut I, and select. Now I'm going to turn my drawing mode going to turn my drawing mode to draw behind, so the next shape that I draw will go behind this circle. You see I'm still on foot 1. I'm just going to click off because I'm going to set my fill back to none. And now let's do another oval. Let's see if I eyedrop, get a different color. Oh yeah, definitely a different color. And let's see if I could do that again. And if I go to set my fill to none, because the shape is still selected, that's what it affects. So always make sure that you use your selection tool, which is shortcut V, just to click off of the shape. Draw another one here. Remember that you are able to stretch and move. Let's see if we get a different color now. Yeah, even darker. And then it gets kind of light again, so I'm going to use the pen tool for this. I'm going to go around the edge. Remember that the handles are acting like magnets for the highest point of the curve. And also you can hold Alt and adjust individual handles while you're working. Let go of Alt, you can continue drawing. Now again, I'm going to set my fill to none, and I can do that while I'm working. Let's just go here and curve around. And that's good. Now let's get a sample. Good, all right. And now a nice easy one is this shape. It's actually all pretty much looks like one solid color. Now if you start tracing off of another shape, you're able to continue as you see here. But if I was to try to put a point that fell on the line of another shape, it would misconstrue it and potentially think that I wanted to add an anchor point. So you can see there's a little plus sign there. And we don't want to do that. We want to start a brand new shape. So I always start my shapes far away from other points, just so that Illustrator and myself don't become confused. Stretch and pull. Remember, if the curve is not predicting as you want, go back to the anchor point when it has the upside down V, just click, and you get back to having a straight line. And now this is snapping to the anchor, but it's not adding to the shape that already has the anchor. It's just kind of like a snap guide that's picking it up for us, and it actually works out well. So I'm going to click and drag for that. And again, I'm going to set my fill to none. And here's what I was telling you guys about not needing to really care about what you do next to get to your next cross point, because I'm not going to, carefully try to match this shape and waste my time trying to make the edging perfect. Instead, I'm just going to click across to where the shape would technically continue. And there we go. And now I eyedrop. And even though this line here shows that this shape crosses along the bottom, it's underneath all the other shapes, so it doesn't negatively affect anything. So there is the first shoe, and it looks pretty good. Now when you zoom in close, I mean, it doesn't look like much. As a matter of fact, it probably looks wrong, but if you zoom out, and then if you hide your work, that's pretty close to what it actually was. Remember, this is abstracted. It's not meant to look precise. It's just meant to mimic and kind of simplify the lightest and darkest areas of a given feature. So now I will make a new layer, and I already did one foot. Let's see what else we can do. Maybe I'll go over to the face. Go over to the face, and I'm going to say eyes. So I always like to start with the smallest shapes. So we have the white of the eyes. So they look like ovals. So I'm going to make my shape, stretch it out. Or if you don't want your snap guides, you can go to view and uncheck snap guides, but I like them. Eyedropper, get white. Now here's something I want you to be aware of. Even though vectors don't work with pixels, the pictures that you drag in as a reference are still in pixels. So if we take a close look here, if I click the white of the eye, but I choose over here, it's going to be gray. So make sure that you get the color sample that you truly want. And I want white. Good. And now let's see, I can click the selection tool, which is V. I can hold Alt, and I can just click and drag to duplicate this shape if I want. That worked out nicely. Now I can draw another oval. I'm going to change the stroke here. And now we have a really long gray circle. Eyedropper, gray. I'm going to use my selection tool, hold V, bring the gray over here. And then now we can do our black oval. Okay, remember, once you draw the shape, you're able to stretch it accordingly, compress it if necessary, all those things. Eye drop. There we go. Let's see if I can just use my selection tool, hold Alt, and whoop! I don't even know what happened. I think I accidentally zoomed in. Bring this shape over, got it tilted a little bit. There you go, that looks pretty good. And now if I were to draw the mouth, making a new layer, I would start off with this highlight here. So I'd use my pen tool to trace this organic shape here. That's pretty good. Click off. And again, my color is set to black right now because black is the last thing I was using, so I'll change it so the fill is none. Use the eyedropper and click. Now I will draw another shape. Got the interior of the mouth here. And again, while you're in the middle of drawing, this happens to me all the time, I realize, oh, my fill's not set to none, so just go over and change it. And again, we have the opportunity to just kind of cut behind the mouth area here. Eyedropper, there we go. And now we have this darkest area here. Good, again, I do this a lot apparently. And maybe let's curve there a little bit. And then curve there. Eye drop, good. Well, let's see, let's just click off for a moment. Yep, that's a pretty solid representation there. And I think we can even find two more variations of red here. By color sample, we got a lighter red and then quite a darker red. So I'm gonna be really particular because for your own projects, the more, quite honestly, the more layers that you do is going to exemplify your skill a lot more. So I do encourage you to challenge yourself. Try to break it down into several levels of value as opposed to just sticking with one main one. There we go. And I'll just click onto that shape and close the gap. Eyedropper. See, if I hover on a point that already exists on another shape, then it asks me if I want to delete it, or rather it has the icon show up. So again, I'm going to start drawing elsewhere. And cross over. looks like I can connect. And now let's go way across over here. And there we go. Alright, now let's zoom out and see what it looks like. Shut it off and on. That's a pretty solid representation of it. So it always looks a little bit weird, but then once you really start putting things together, it turns out quite seamlessly. So that's the goal. I do strongly encourage you to start with the lightest part first. Work on the highest, shiniest points, and then progressively go back and get the darker areas. It really is up to you, but I do find that that is the simplest method. It's the easiest way that I find to allow myself to identify the areas where values change. But you guys are welcome to explore other methods. Remember that we are using the pen tool and solid colors for this. So just keep those criteria in mind as we get closer to the official start of the assignment. All right, so have fun experimenting, choose a character, see how well you can do.